Greetings, everybody, and welcome to episode 20 of the PGP podcast with the coaching show. Ready to make sure that we all learn from each other because that's the whole purpose of this series of shows, making sure we archive all of the knowledge. And today it's about coaching. And some of you might be seeing coaching. I don't want to coach cheerleading. I don't want to coach football. No, we're not talking about that type of coaching. I'm talking about coaching within education. But we'll get into the details about that. Hey, Josh Tobar, proud principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland, IZ, Garland, USA, ready to rock and roll and learn from each other because you know what? We're only stronger together. Hey, Dr. Moreno, how are you doing? Where are you at?
I am in the 956 Rio Grande Valley in South Texas and doing great. Oh my goodness. I took a friend of mine to Mexico yesterday. Never been there before, never crossed the border into Mexico, and never seen the border wall. So had to go show her how crazy that border wall looks like up close and personal, and had to touch it, take a couple of selfies. But it was amazing. So yeah, it was good. Been doing some work down here in the RGV and just enjoying life right now.
Beautiful, love it. And remember, everybody, if you have, and everybody can attest to this, doesn't matter if you're New York or Washington or Illinois, you're dealing with EB students. We call them EB students, you call them EL students, ELL students, LEP students. I don't know. We have different titles for them. And the person that could be a go-to is right here. That lady right there. That's what she does. But you know what? I'd like to thank everybody for being here. If you're seeing this on the rebroadcast, thank you, because you could spend your time doing other things, but you're listening to our awesome show. So thank you very much for being here, and I appreciate it. Like it and share it on the rebroadcast. Please like it and share it and make your comments, because that's the only way we're going to learn from each other, making sure that we get those added value nuggets, as one of our guests always talks about, added value nuggets of knowledge. That way we become better version of ourselves and we are stronger together. And as you know, Dr. Moreno, I started doing something, and I call it Chinchilagua. Chinchilagua, some dude in Wisconsin is saying, what the heck is Chinchilagua? You see, it's a Mexican game where kids line up against a wall or against a tree and they crunch down over. And what they do is they get in a line and they run across and they jump on top of each other. I don't know how people are not sent to emergency more often, or how parents are not turned into CPS for allowing their kids to do that in our Mexican culture. But it's a fun game. Kids enjoy it. But you know what? It can be dangerous. And so it's kind of the thought of this segment real quick. It's only 2 or 3 minutes to where we throw out something and Dr. Moreno and I discuss it. And today, Dr. Moreno, my Chinchilagua moment is about when you take over something. What do I mean by that? When you take over something, an assistant principal, when you take over a head coaching job, when you take over the principal chair, you know what? You knew what you were interviewing for. You knew that if you were going to be an assistant principal, you were going to deal with discipline. You knew that if you were applying for a D- campus or an F campus, you knew that's what you were applying for. When you took over these programs or an A program, let me tell you, it ain't easier maintaining an A program.
It's hard.
It's harder than picking up from below. So my Chinchilagua moment is here just to say to everybody, when you applied and you went for the second interview and they said, we're going to recommend you to HR so you could get hired. Don't bring up the past. You knew what you were getting into. You knew that was an F campus. You knew there was going to be discipline issues. You knew that.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what was there before. It's yours. And you know what? I don't know about you, Dr. Moreno, but you know, us that we've been in this over 33 decades plus, we hear our colleagues complain, oh, I don't want to go to duty. Oh, I don't have a life with my family. Oh, these kids keep on misbehaving. I can't. Oh, this mom. You applied for that. You wanted that. You prayed to God that you had a second interview with a superintendent. You said, I want to be the head football coach of a losing team. And you know what? It takes a lot to fine-tune that car. And you got to have the wherewithal, put in the time, and bringing up the previous administration, Bringing up the previous coach is not the way moving forward.
Yeah.
It's not the way of creating your vision for that program, because they didn't hire you for that other person. They
Correct.
hired you for you. What do you think
Yeah.
about that, Dr. Moreno?
You know, Josh, you bring up a great point, because I talk to a lot of brand new principals as I'm working in different schools. And you're absolutely right. You know, people constantly are just talking about, you know, oh, this is what they did in the past. And oh my God, this is what I inherited. It's like, what do you do about it now? Like, you're in it now. You signed up for it. And how do we go about changing that? And you're right. When you're talking about an F campus, you have to put, you know, the work in and everything to make it that. You've gone through that. We're bringing an F campus all the way to a B and an A campus. But it's even harder. You're absolutely right. I walked into a B campus, and keeping that B campus as soon as COVID hit, and maintaining it after COVID and then bringing it out, that takes a lot of work and a lot of ganas. It takes a lot of hard work and whatnot. And you know what? Also, what we're going to talk today is about the coaching piece, right? Which is a huge piece as far as working with the other people to kind of get us to where we want to go. So I'm super excited about our conversation today. And we have a great group of people today who's going to talk to us about that specific topic. So I'm super excited about our conversation.
Exactly. So remember, everybody, when you take over the show, that's your show. When you take over a job, that's your job. Don't bring in toxicity for something that you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And now the coaching show. So we have to tell the audience the vision of it. And obviously, I never, ever take credit for something that's not mine at all. You see, a while ago, we had under Unlock the Middle, when I was on the other podcast, Carol in Ohio talked about her assistant principal. And she says how she was mentoring him to bring along to the chair. And then David talked to me about how he was coaching some of his people in his district. And I go, oh, there you go. You just got to find the time for this. You just got to find the time to put the right pieces together. And then the person that is all about coaching, because he talks about that in his book, on the RTA book, is that he found himself when he got a coach. So this is what it's all about. We have 3 sets. We're missing Kip. We're going to miss you. Hey, much love. We're going to send you a Sherpa there, Kip Schubert, when you see this. If you don't know, you got to follow that guy. You know what I'm talking about. So we're going to send you a Sherpa there, Kip, knowing that Darren's got your back. So Darren worked with Kip Schubert. Follow his Secret Sauce podcast. Then we have Carol, who's currently at the same campus with Brian, and David, who left already, was working with Josh here in Texas. I'm going to give you some time right now to introduce yourselves and everything to the audience. But everybody, that's the concept of today's show, coaching at different levels of education. Before I get started, a big shout out to an RTA author, Todd Bloomer. Thank you for being here and joining us tonight. He just came out with his book, and he always takes a lot of walks in the morning. So if you're lonely, take a walk with Todd Bloomer in the morning virtually. Without further ado, welcome to there you go, the blueprint. There you go. So I'd like everybody to go around right now, because I need to unlock all the other shows on the platforms. We're going to start off with Ohio. Our guest from Ohio, Carol, please introduce yourself, the jobs that you've had, and which one has been your favorite. Again, introduce yourself, the jobs that you had, and then which one was your favorite. Go.
So I was an English department chairperson at a high school in the same district that I'm in right now, just between Akron and Cleveland. And I loved that. I had 16 people underneath me. I loved the instructional leadership and creating professional learning communities and teacher-based teams there. That was awesome, especially within my craft of English. I loved that. Then I went to the assistant seat. I had the same seat that Brian is in right now. I liked it. It was a lot of kid involvement. Yes, of course, you're an assistant principal and associate, and you do a lot of discipline and whatnot, but you get to be with while you're there, and you get to hang out with kids all day. So that's awesome. But I will have to say that this position I'm in right now so far is definitely my favorite. I love being able to kind of impact the building and the district from all different angles and all different levels on a kind of a bigger scale.
Carol, and what position is that? Your principal?
Yeah, I'm the head principal at an intermediate building, which is about a fifth and sixth grader. So we have 540, something like that, kids, maybe 500 this year.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Brian.
Hey, Brian Radowski here. I am actually the assistant principal. I work with Carol at the same exact building, obviously. Beforehand, I was a 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher and a football coach. I taught at the same exact school district. It's actually a school district that I graduated from, so I'm lifelong, Nordonia guy here. But I really love doing that. I was a team lead there, head football coach, and then thought I could make a bigger impact by working with kids because, I've always been the type of guy that, they would send me the most difficult kids, and I would have to work with them. So I found it always, when I applied for the position, I found it perfect for me, which currently I'm the assistant principal there. And I love doing what I'm doing right now. I by far, this is my favorite position. It's definitely different than being in the classroom, but I really enjoy the impact that I can have, not only with kids, but also with staff too.
Awesome, Brian. Thank you for sharing. And here down from Ohio, going down south to the Lone Star State, David, talk to us.
What's up, friends? David Ernst, CB up here in North Texas. It's great to be back. Fantastic time. I can't wait. It's going to be good. So I've done a little bit of everything, all secondary level. I'm a former Spanish teacher, world history teacher, PE teacher, athletic coordinator, department chair. I was an assistant principal, vice principal, a principal. Now I'm an author, speaker, leadership coach, and just enjoying every moment. As far as my favorite, I have a lot of favorite memories when I was coaching football and teaching high school ball here in Texas. It's a little bit different world, as we all know, when it comes to that down here. So I have a lot of great memories from that, but of course enjoyed all of my roles. So it's great to be with you all.
And his counterpart here in the Lone Star State, Joshua.
Hey guys, I'm Josh Cassada. I'm currently the principal at Colleyville Elementary School in Colleyville, Texas. I was a teacher in the classroom for 7 years, teaching everything from 4th grade self-contained to 6th grade math. I was a special education academic specialist with Irving ISD for 2 years, where I was K through 12 working with the special education department. I was then an assistant principal at Townsville Elementary School in Irving, Texas. I'm giving shout outs to all my old spots. Assistant principal at Townsville Elementary School in Irving, Texas. Then I had the honor to work with Dr. Ancibia at Colleyville Middle School, where I was an assistant principal with him for 1 year. And then that opened up the door at Colleyville Elementary. And I have to go back to that year at Colleyville Middle School. It really opened up a lot of insight to where I'm at now. And I wouldn't be the place I'm at right now if it wasn't for that year. But my new team, I think some of them might be watching. They would probably be upset if I didn't say that working with them was my favorite. So DA, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to say my current job is my favorite.
As you should, sir.
Awesome.
Look at that. He's such a proud person. Look at him.
And you know what, Josh, don't worry. Don't feel comfortable, because a lot of people, this is the first time they see a podcast. Does that make sense? Yes. And they don't know who we are, what we bring to the table. And that's the whole thing, is to bring together a repository of information. And you know what? We all put on our pants the same way. That's what we forget in public education. Mm-hmm. We all eat our tacos the same way. Some of us better than others. We all drink our water bottle the same, unless we're goofy and we put it through the side. But you know what? That's what we forget. We're all human. We all are parents. We're all grandparents, and they need to know the other side of us, not what the fake title is. But you know what? Talking about the title, talking about Nebraska, talking about Go Pokes, talking about Wyoming, Darren Peppard, introduce yourself.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much. Yeah, man, I'll tell you what an all-star cast. I'm super excited to be a part of this tonight. Thank you, Josh and Dr. Moreno, for bringing me back onto the show. Obviously, love hanging out with you guys. It's so much fun to have a chance to do this. I'll tell you, for me, it started 30 years ago. I was, it's really, really like crazy for me to even like think that or say that. But 30 years ago, my first teaching job, I taught middle school science. Then I was a high school science teacher, head basketball coach. I was a tennis coach, and then moved back to my home state of Wyoming. Go Pokes. Nobody else will say it, and you shouldn't because they're terrible right now. But go back to Wyoming, and I was an assistant principal at the high school level. Had 2 different assistant principal roles. Then I became a high school principal. Wrapped up my formal career in public education with 4 years as a superintendent in the mountains in Colorado. Now coaching is my life. That's what I do. I work with leaders all over North America, helping them get clear, be more intentional, and walk in their purpose. And my favorite, there's so many of them that are so good, and I love what I do right now. But Josh, you introduced me this way, so I'll go right to it. I'm a recovering high school principal. Man, I loved being a high school principal. An absolutely incredible job. And heck, I got to be my own kid's high school principal. So, man, it doesn't get much better than that. So I will tell you that that's my favorite, because if I don't say it's my favorite, my daughter won't let me hear the end of it.
Thank you for sharing, everybody. Welcome to Dot McKeever Jeeber, part of the Fantastic Four Familia. Don't forget her that this is the 4th part of this weekend. We have Coach Sean Hurt, we have Shika Houston, Tammy Taylor, Principal Cafele, and closing off the weekend here with the PGP podcast. And Central Hicks, future guest, thank you for being here, part of the Fantastic Four, making sure that we're all learning together. Take it away, Dr. Moreno.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Oh my goodness. As you mentioned, there's so many people out there that are new to the show. So it's important for us to kind of know a little bit about us and about you guys before we kind of get started with what we're really here to talk about, and that's about coaching. So before we do that, I want to know, and let's just tell everybody out in the audience, what or who motivated you to become an educator? And so it's important for us to kind of really lay that path out, just so that people know everybody comes into education in a different path. I know I did. I came in through alternative certification. So kind of let's talk a little bit about who or what motivated you to become an educator. And we're going to start off with Carol.
All right, so I'm going to have to say, I'm going to go old school here. I'm going to have to say my mother was my first influence, just because I grew up and she was this, continual presence in my school system. She was the president of our PTA for years. She was always, everyone knew my mom was going to be the homeroom mom and all that kind of stuff. So she just was very philanthropic. She was very involved with servitude in that of our community. So I kind of tagged along with her on a lot of different adventures, and I still today have an aversion to working in concession stands as a result. But so definitely my mom kind of got me started in terms of servitude. And the best way to do that is helping children and families of children. And then I had a really great couple of high school teachers. One was, even though I was an English teacher, my government teacher, she was awesome. Mrs. Durant, I'll never forget her, and just kind of inspired me to continue that pursuit.
That's awesome. Thank you, Carol. And I just want everybody to remember, we always are planting seeds. So you never know, teachers out there, right? That what you do and what you say to your kids. Look at Carol's already shouting out her previous teachers from back in the day, right? And so it's always nice to hear, that our former students out there are giving thanks and gratitude to all of our former teachers. Darren, who or what motivated you to become an educator?
Yeah, so my path is a little bit different. I don't really have that one teacher that made me say, "Ooh, I really want to be a teacher." I actually, when I got to college, I struggled a little bit. I changed my major a few times. I just really couldn't get focused. And I had a friend that one of my roommates came home one day and he said, "Hey, I got asked to coach this elementary school basketball team, and I know you played. Would you come and help?" And I went to practice the next day, and I was hooked. And all of a sudden I went from, I have no idea what I really want to do with my life, I don't really have any direction, to I want to work with kids. I want to help kids. I wanted to be a head basketball coach. I mean, it was like, bang, here we go. Saw my advisor the next day. We're changing the major and we're going in that direction. So for me, that's kind of where it all came from.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to put sports for you. Sports is what hooked you up.
There you go. Yeah. Coaching. It was coaching.
David, what about you?
Yeah, I'm similar with it when it comes to sports. So in high school, I had a Frank Police, Coach Police. He was our head football coach, my PE teacher, and I just love to play games. I love to be outside. I love sports. So I saw his job. I was like, wait a minute, this guy's getting paid to hang out with us and play some ball with us. No, beyond that, honestly, though, a lot of leadership lessons that he had an impact on me growing up and then playing the sports and whatnot. So he was one of them. So Coach Police. And then also I was very, very fortunate to be the student body president at my high school. And that was an actual class in our high school in California. So Miss Williamson was our teacher, and talk about a leadership guru and coach and just a phenomenal individual and person. She was that and everything, and plus, and just influenced me in a lot of great ways. So that's how I knew I wanted to be in high school, in secondary, in education, just generally speaking. But those two were huge influencers on me.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Nice to hear. Brian, how about you? Who or what motivated you?
I'll say the same exact. I know it sounds like a broken record right now, but Darren, I have a very similar, past as you. I definitely struggled. Coming out of high school, was not the top student, not at all. Went into college, really didn't have a direction towards what I wanted to do. I spent a year at one school, spent another year at another school. Thought about going into the Army. Thought about doing a lot of different things. And really, it was one of my former football coaches, actually, Coach Hughie. Carol, you know Coach Hughie. He still is at the school district that we're currently at. He asked if I wanted to come out and help out in football. Definitely a passion of mine. And like Darren said, I was hooked right from the beginning. It was the small intricacies of helping a kid that didn't know how to get down in a stance the right way. And then by the end of the year, the kid was, well, he wasn't great still, but he was getting better. So, and I think that slow process of really helping kids really kind of drove me to go into education.
Nice. It's always good to have educators who care about kids, right? Because that's important. That's what we do. We're in the kid business. We're in the people business. Awesome. And last but not least, Joshua.
Well, I grew up and the majority of my childhood was in Chillicothe, Missouri, about 90 miles east of Kansas City. And in first and second grade, I went to Dewey Elementary School, and right about less than a quarter of a mile down the road at the vocational school, the VOTEC, my grandfather taught shop at the VOTEC. And many times after school or even just hanging around with him, I got to be in his shop, which was his classroom. And I got to see the relationships that he had with his students. And I got to see, whenever we would, living in a small town, whenever we would go out to eat and he would run into one of his students every time we went somewhere, he ran into somebody that he was able to touch in his classroom as far as helping them with whatever they were trying to succeed. And I always admired my grandfather. He was in the military. I then joined the military after college, and then he became a teacher. I became a teacher after the military, and I went to college. And I tell you what, I always admired how he treated his students just like he treated us as grandkids. And ultimately, that was the biggest motivator in me becoming an educator.
Josh, you said VOTEC. That's funny because that's how we would refer to vocational education back in the day. Now it's career in tech now. But it was funny because you said it and I was all like, oh my God, I'm getting so old.
Yeah, the old VOTEC school. I'll never forget it. I mean, that's really where my inspiration came from.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got, involved as an educator. My VOTEC teacher was who kind of inspired me, and so I'm a teacher because of her. Right? So awesome, thank you, Josh.
So as we all know, there's an exodus in education, and we're getting a lot of alt certs I don't know about Ohio, but or Nebraska, but we have a lot of people that do not go up the traditional pathway. And so sometimes they question, well, I wasn't made for this. And a lot of you mentioned this route, the route that you took through your high school, college, which was not traditional. Like me, I was a big knucklehead. I was not successful at all in high school. So I would like to ask, big shout out to Kevin Curtis. If you want any help with restorative circles and discipline, call on Kevin Curtis. And he says, we all do eat the tacos the same way. I don't know, Kevin. I've seen people eat tacos a goofy way. Donna Gant, Fantastic Four, thank you for being here. And Otis Kitchen out of Florida, thank you for being here, part of the Fantastic Four. Thank you, brother. Nice seeing you. So please tell the audience real quick, how are you as a student? So you got that person on, in high school or their second year of college trying to do the whole, let me join education. Not all of you have to set up your dolls and teach them when you're little, right? There's a lot of stories like that chop block. No. So how were you as a student, high school, college, and how was your first year in the classroom? Brian?
I was an awful student. I have to be honest. I really was. I thought school was to go hanging out with my friends and playing football and doing that type of stuff, which was awesome and fun. And I just made it by. I got to be honest with you. But as I gradually grew a little bit more and matured more as I got older. I did better once I started into college, but my first year of teaching, it's a whirlwind. You're just trying to survive each day. But the one thing that I always found is that, when I'm first meeting people, if I start building connections and I really genuinely show that I care, which I do, things tend to work out a lot better. So I think, first year is always tough, but as the years go on, you get used to it, you get comfortable with it, you tweak things here and there as you're going along. But definitely a whirlwind. Not your top student, no, not at all. But I would like to think that I've gotten a lot better and I've learned a lot from the people that I've been around, mainly Carol. So.
Thank you, brother, for sharing. Thank you for opening up. That is much appreciated. Josh, Tocayo, talk to us.
I'm gonna have to piggyback on that. I was not a good student at all. We moved a lot. When I was 14, we moved away from Chillicothe, and then we moved to 2 places in Iowa, and then down to Texas by the time I graduated. So I was more interested in trying to make new friends due to the movement of my family, and I was falling behind in class because it seemed like when I got to a new school, the classes I was in were in a different spot than where I left. So I was always trying to figure out where I was at, and it was frustrating. And the people I was able to meet during those times was a lot more interesting to me than school. And it wasn't really until I got into this organization called the United States Marine Corps where I really was able to lock everything on and everything started to make a little bit more sense. And getting my first year in the classroom was I wouldn't even call it average for a first year teacher, as I was trying to just kind of figure out the process and procedure of being in a classroom and in a school building. So the Marine Corps didn't help everything whenever it came to being a first year teacher, I'll tell you that.
Hey, I'm glad to see another fellow devil dog there. It's amazing how them Marines, those Smoky Bears fix us real quick, huh?
Yes, sir. The Smoky Bear, real quick within the first couple of hours.
Hours.
Makes
exactly.
makes you a new person.
Oh yes, it does. Darren, talk to us.
Yeah. So, there's a theme here. I was average. I was not a great student. I wasn't a bad student. I didn't get in any trouble. My mom was in charge of boys attendance at my school, so I never got in any trouble. I just, did what I was supposed to do. But I'm the classic middle child, right? And my older sister, she set the bar so high. So I was the one that teachers don't say to kids what they said to me. They said to me, "Why aren't you more like Krista?" and there was this expectation that I was going to be, and so I knew I couldn't live up to that. So I leaned into, I love what Josh was saying, man. I leaned into, the building relationships with my friends and hanging out with my friends, like Brian. I was like, hey, I'm all about my athletic teams that I'm a part of and that kind of stuff. I was very average. And I think it allowed me to just kind of stay below the radar. And I think that's why I struggled so much when I got to college, because I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to, how to show up for class. I mean, I knew how to show up for class, but then when nobody was watching, I stopped showing up for class because it was like, oh, cool. My mom's not in charge of attendance at my college, right? Like she was, at the high school that I went to. But so I was very average. As far as my first year teaching, I'll tell you what. So here's this average student who shows up thinking he's been hired to teach 7th grade life science. He finds out he's going to teach 8th grade physical science. Not a big deal. But then my principal says, and you're going to teach one section of 8th grade math. I didn't think I could pass 8th grade math, let alone teach it. And so I'm like, every night I am just studying like crazy to try and stay ahead of my kids in 8th grade math. And at the end of the year, I'll tell you this, at the end of the year, Arizona, that's where I was teaching, they had a teacher proficiency exam you had to take and pass to keep your license after 1 year. And the math exam was my 8th grade math curriculum, and I got a 98 on the test. So there you go. So I could learn. I just until you have to teach it, maybe you don't learn it. And I'll say one more thing about my first year as a classroom teacher. I think it was a pretty good year. My very first discipline referral happened during my very first formal evaluation. And afterwards, my assistant principal who was doing the evaluation said, I can't believe you let him stay that long. So I guess I was pretty patient as a first year teacher. So, but it was a good first year. I really thought it was, except for that I had to teach myself 8th grade math in order to teach it. So.
Got it. Thank you for sharing. Out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Melissa Jones Chunu, Fantastic Four family. Thank you for being here. Carol, talk to us.
So I'm one of those overachieving type people who kind of destroy themselves growing because they're trying to get the best and score the highest score and all that kind of stuff. I did have some 3 older siblings, 3 older brothers who some set the bar really high and some kind of hit that middle child approach. But I was always trying to prove myself because I was the only girl in my family. So I was always trying to prove myself that I could achieve just as much, academically as my older brothers, that what they had done. Because, of course, they're all very intelligent, high-performing kids, or adults even now. So I had that genuine thirst for knowledge as I was going through school, right? So I was the guy who wanted to sit off and read and kind of do all that kind of stuff. But then I had some, I have a brother who ran in college, right? So I had some athletes in my family too. So I had to try to, perform that way in terms of the girl activities like the dance, the gymnastics, cheerleading, those kinds of things too. But basically though, I just studied. I studied a lot. So when I got to college, it wasn't tough for me just because I enjoyed it, right? I do have that. So when I got into my first classroom, I was in a small town in Florida, actually. My parents had moved to Florida from Pennsylvania, actually. And it was very diverse. And, and when I went to college, I didn't know anyone who ever had divorced parents. I didn't know I had a very sheltered experience growing up. So I thought, the world kind of hit me. And then when I was teaching in Florida with all the diversity in the classroom setting that I went into, the guy had actually been removed from the classroom. The teacher, my predecessor, had been removed. There was a lot of behavior, a lot of issues through there. And being a small town, you did have your conferences in the dairy aisle at the grocery store and things like that. And I just got really involved and advised classes and did some coaching and coached some softball down there and all that kind of stuff too, just to kind of immerse myself in the culture because I was out of touch. Right? I had no idea. I did get asked for hall passes on numerous occasions my first year teaching. So there were, I remember there was a medical situation in my classroom, and the school resource officer came in and yelled at me, told me to sit down. Where's the teacher? And I was like, I am the teacher. So I went through a lot of that struggle, kind of adapting, not just even like within the walls of my classroom, like in the walls of the building, and then even into the community of who was this outsider that came into this small town. So that was fun. And then I kind of moved on from there.
Thank you for brightening up the room. From hearing, there's a lot of knuckleheads here, so thank you for being the smart one. Thank you, appreciate that. I don't know, I don't mean to speak for everybody else, but I heard all these similar stories from the guys right there. Sean Hurt, part 2 of the Fantastic Four, part 1. Coach Hurt, thank you for being here. David Arencibia.
All right, yeah. So I'm a little bit more of a chameleon, I think. In the sense by the time I was a freshman in high school, I'd been to 8 different schools. We moved a whole lot for a lot of various reasons, but I'm very competitive, a lot like Carol. I wanted to, I always just have this intrinsic motivation to always just want to do the best I possibly can. But I also had some struggles and challenges. So basically what I'm saying is I was whatever the teacher wanted me to be by their actions. And what I mean by that is if the teacher was very, very passionate, I was very, very passionate, and I enjoyed their classroom. They loved me, I loved them. If the teacher was not very good, then I was probably not very good either. So and you know, that's just the reality of me in that regard. And like I would say the 2 extremes right there being the competitive nature. I remember my 4th grade year, we had this competition, this math competition, where anytime that you would level up, if you will, because you mastered a specific math goal or strategy, you would get this new color of paper. So it would be pink next week, and now you get to try, you know, you get to continue to advance. Well, that motivated me. I ended up being like the smartest math kid in the whole school. But then you fast forward to like later on in my middle school years, I found out later on through my wife, who's a school psychologist, that I'm very, very, very dyslexic. So I remember not taking notes in a couple of classes, my English class and biology class. And it wasn't because I wasn't trying to be a compliant kid. If you wanted me to listen and to hear you and engage with you and to learn the material that you're presenting to me, you're going to just see me doing this. You're not going to see me doing this, because if I'm doing this, I'm concentrating on the letters. And shoot, if I even want to read my notes later on, then I'm really taking the time and I'm not hearing anything you're saying. Well, sometimes that would come across well, David, you're not being compliant.
Exactly.
And here we go. So all that to say that's kind of the other extreme. So if the teacher was not very nice to me then you basically lost my respect, because you didn't want to ask me the simple question as to, hey, why aren't you taking notes? No, you just want to come at me. Well, guess what? You weren't going to like me now. That's kind of the street kid coming out of me, being from East LA, I guess. But all that to say, I was a chameleon, basically whatever I needed to be at the time. I was a great student, or I was a really bad student. My first year of teaching, I wanted to be really, really creative, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I'm also an alt cert person when it comes to teaching. And so in college, I was a Spanish major, and I did what I needed to do to graduate and move on. But I always knew I wanted to do high school teaching and coaching. Well, I didn't go that education route because that was an extra year, which means that was an extra $18,000 that this kid didn't have, and I didn't want to take more loans out, right? So I ended up just doing the alt cert and just try to be creative on my own. So I remember just trying to make it really engaging for my students. But I also remember it being in a silo. I had no idea what I was doing. But I remember it was a pretty good year. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was a great time teaching and coaching high school ball in North Texas. So the first year was good. It was good. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for sharing your stories, everybody. Appreciate you. That really lets everybody out there know, you know what? We all come from different backgrounds, but in the end, it's caring for and loving for our kids. Dr. Moreno.
Yes. And, just so that everybody just remembers what this whole topic is about, this is called the Coaching Show. So today, guys out there, out in the audience, we do have pairs today with us. Joshua and David are together, and Brian, Carol, you're together, and Darren, your pair is not here. And what is their name again?
It's
just
Kip
a shout
Schubert.
out for them real quick.
Yeah, Kip Schubert.
Kip, there you go. Kip is out there.
Dr. Moreno, Kip was in episode 6 with us.
Yes, yes, he was. Yes, he was. I didn't write his name down, but yes, he was. So just really quickly, I just want to let the audience know. Just tell the audience how did you two meet, and what brought you guys together? So I'm going to start off with the pair real quick. Let's start off with Joshua and David. So David, I'll let you go first since you're the one who coached Brian. So what did you see in Brian that you're like, he has potential. I'm gonna coach this person. So talk to the audience out there. How did you guys meet, and what brought you guys together?
Yeah, so with Cassida, I was on the lookout for a new assistant principal. We're really fortunate that the assistant principal that was on campus, he had just got his new building, so I was on the lookout for the next principal, if you will. And I basically received a short list from our HR department saying, here are the people that we've screened, here are the people that are top-notch candidates, amazing. Take a look at them. Well, I brought them in, and Josh was one of those candidates, and immediately we kicked it off, and we really saw eye to eye and had a lot of core values that really aligned. But that's really where we met, was actually through the interviewing process. Josh, what do you remember from that?
Yeah, I remember that I got called in for a screener interview, and then it was only like 2 days later I got a phone call from Dr. David Arancibia, and I was ecstatic. And then I just started doing all the research on the school, and really, like, I was in need of a new educational space at that time. You know, I was ready to spread my wings and fly for a new experience. And then talking to Dr. Arancibia, it was just the right spot for me. And it was pretty evident to me on my end that it was the right spot for me, and that it was going to be a good fit in our conversations.
Awesome. And you know what? I like that you said that, Josh, because it's important when you are trying to find that person that it is a good fit, right? You want to make sure that you are able to work with one another, especially David, you were talking about, you're looking for your next assistant principal, right? Or and you have to have that partner, right? So when you're coaching out there and you're looking for that next person, you have to make sure that that person is the right fit, because people fit in different places. They just don't fit in all places, right? So Brian, Carol, how about you? We'll start off with Carol. Carol, can you tell us the day you met Brian, and how did you guys meet?
So I was actually teaching at the high school that Brian attended when he was doing the shenanigans that he was doing. I didn't have him in class, but I knew who he was. I don't even think you were in my study hall or anything like that. I just knew of Brian Radowski. And his shenanigans weren't that bad, guys, right? Like, come on now. But I will tell you that when we went through the whole process of, and I say we because the administrative team in the district that we're in, we kind of have a lot of conversation and dynamic about when we're going through those hiring process, because it's not just within our building that we have to work together. It's kind of within our district and on our administrative team. So those kind of behind the scene conversations were obviously taking place. There were actually 82 candidates that interviewed for Brian's job. It was like a full-time job for, I don't know, Brian, how many, 3 weeks, something like that, 4 weeks.
A while, yeah.
It was a very long process. It was awesome. But each time we would bring in new staff members, and we kind of put them through the ringer and all that kind of stuff. And the philosophy behind even the approach was that I needed to find a yin to my yang. Right. So I'm not going to hire myself, but I need to hire somebody who, fits with my vision, fits, all those things. Right. So Brian definitely rose to the top every single round. And any new teacher, because we put new teachers on each round, right? There would be other, and they were all video because it was coming out of COVID when, we were going through this process and whatnot too. So, to sell yourself on a virtual
That's hard.
interview is tough. Right.
Yeah.
And I do believe, and I would love to hear Rudy's, we call him Rudy, by the way, not Brian.
It's so strange that you're even saying Brian right now.
I know, it's like making I feel awkward saying Brian. But anyway, when every new round that Rudy went through, it was a unanimous decision. And I'm not even just saying that because he's sitting here, right? It was like, it's got to be Brian Radowski. Every single time. He fits with, you can feel the back and forth. It was definitely the yin to my yang, right? And he's no dummy, by the way. Let's be very clear about that too. So Brian, how do you think it went?
I'm still shocked that you hired me, but I am
I'm
blessed.
shocked that there was 82 people.
I'm
Very
shocked that I
blessed.
interviewed 82 people.
That's true too.
What I'll say is I'm very blessed to be in the position that I am in. You know, while this was all going on, I was actually going back for my master's to be in educational administration. So I was actually taking classes while I was interviewing, and a part of me when I first originally started, when I applied for it, I just said, I think this would be a really good opportunity for me just to get see what the interview process looks like for an administrative team. And then, you know, there was the first round, and then they decided to move me on to the second round. And the second round, I'm like, okay, well, I don't think I did that well on that one. So, and then all of a sudden I get a call from the superintendent telling me he would like me to come in and have a conversation about taking the job. And again, throughout the whole process, I was just trying to be myself. That's all, you know, and again, I think that's also understanding like that, especially with these positions, whether it's a teaching position or administrative position, like if the fit's not there, the fit's not there. It's going to ring through pretty clearly. So for me, and being, you know, with Carol and being in the district and kind of knowing just how, you know, how the district runs and how it works, and just me being a lifelong guy, you know, at the district that I'm at right now, I think it was a pretty easy fit for me. And I wasn't going to be anybody other than myself. I wasn't going to put on a front that, you know, I'm this way or I'm this. No, I'm about relationships. I'm about kids, about doing what's right, common sense. So that's how it went for me. Again, I'm still, like I said, I'm still shocked that I got the position, but you know, I think each year I have grown in a lot of different ways in my position right now. So, you know, I'm very blessed to be where I'm at.
Awesome, Brian. Thank you. And you know, kudos. That's a lot of people for you to out, you know, perform everybody. So kudos to you because you deserve it. And what I loved about what you said, you were yourself. You were genuine and you didn't kind of like fake it or anything. And you know what? That brought the best out of you. So, you know, kudos to you. Good job. Thank you. Darren, I know you're the Lone Ranger right now, but
All good.
we can talk about Kip all you want, okay? Because
Yes, we
you
can.
are the
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Kip is totally at our mercy right now, which is kind of fun, but
He's gonna come back to this broadcast and listen to it. He's gonna say, "What did he say about me?"
Yeah, right. I'll tell you this. So very different coaching story than these two pairs type of story. In Kip's situation, Kip and I have never worked in the same building or anything like that, but rather Kip and I connected through social media. Kip saw, you know, what we were doing at Road to Awesome. Thought he, you know, had a book, you know, in him and wanted to do the work to get a book published. And he and I connected, built a really good relationship long before Kip ever actually submitted a book proposal to us at Road to Awesome. And along the way, as we continued to grow that relationship, you know, I really believe, and I think this is true in the leadership roles as well, we don't have to know everything in order to coach somebody along and to help bring others along, right? We just need to be maybe 10 or 15 or 20% further down that road. And that's probably about where I was at that time when Kip and I connected. That, you know, I had at that point, you know, my wife and I had stepped out full time into our work at Road to Awesome with the leadership coaching, the publishing, and the speaking. And I was able to, in partnership with a good friend of mine, Dr. Brandon Beck, provide some support for Kip along the way and give Kip some ideas and some support. You know, a lot of feedback. You know, he would run ideas past us, and at the end of the day, you know, there was a point in time where Kip felt like, okay, I've written this book proposal and I really feel good about what I have to share. I have a story that I want to tell, that I want to impact educators. And he sent that proposal to us at Road to Awesome. And well, just a little over a year ago, his book was published. That's Kip's book right there, Struggle to Strength. Kip's a fantastic human being. I mean, I hope everybody is following Kip on all of the platforms because he, genuinely a really impactful guy. And when you talk about coaching, and I know he's not able to talk tonight. He's sick. He's got a big game tomorrow night. He's a soccer coach at Woodland Park High School in Colorado, and he took over a soccer team 2 years ago in Woodland Park. And I mean, they had never hardly even tasted victory, let alone any kind of state ranking or anything like that. I will share this for Kip. Right now, Woodland Park High School is ranked number 6 in the state in Colorado in 3A. And it's the coaching that Kip is doing and the impact he's making on those kids. So certainly, Kip and I have a great, working relationship there and supportive relationship. It continues still to this day. We have a text chain that constantly we're supporting each other and encouraging each other along the way.
And just for the folks out there in the audience, coaching doesn't, as Darren said, doesn't have to be in the same building, in the same space, right? It's all about how you as a leader are supporting others along the work so that you can make sure that you're working towards a common goal, right? So in Darren, in your case, you were already a published author, right? And so you had someone who was inspired, right, to do the same thing. And so you never know how you can just support people, whether it's a brand new teacher, whether it's an assistant principal aspiring to be a principal, or a principal trying to be a superintendent, right? I mean, you just never know you can go that path. But I know so many people out there that are always looking to grow. And so how, as leaders, how do we provide that stepping stone for them? So kudos to you. And thank you, Darren, for sharing that there is a different way of coaching as well, so that other people know how to support others.
So this question is directed to the coaches, David, Darren, and Carol. Coaching, it's scary. We all know that. It's what we bring to the table. Obviously, what you brought to the table your first year is different than your 5th year, so on and so forth. And so you evolve also as a leader when you have more people under your belt, more accomplishments in the campus, so on and so forth, let alone from administrator to superintendent, the totally radical change in your dynamic. So my question to you, David, Darren, and Carol, we'll start off with Carol right now. Carol, what did you see yourself as a coach? What were your original thought process when you took over someone to mold them in a way for the chair, to mold them, but also how do you give not only positive reinforcement for, you're coming along, this is effective, but the hardest part for anybody is those awkward conversations of redirecting. I'm using the word redirecting. And normally that has a negative connotation. I'm not looking at it that way. I'm just presenting to you. As a coach, what was your philosophy at your early on stages of guiding somebody else? And how do you provide the feedback, both positive and not positive, to those that you're mentoring? Carol.
So I think you said it initially. Somebody mentioned here, it's about growth and learning. The whole process is about growing. I grow as a mentor. I'm being mentored by others as well, at the same time that I'm working with Rudy. I think that the number one thing that I try to do is coaching in the moment, right? When I see situations arise, I see maybe there's a really tough discipline situation going on with a particular family that may have some history within our district. If I have the foresight and am in position to see that coming, I might say, hey, do you mind if I sit in? Not to take over, not to engage, but just to kind of be a presence there to kind of coach along the way and kind of step in specifically with a kid. I know when I came from a high school setting into a 5th and 6th grade setting, that was difficult for me to kind of navigate. The first time I disciplined a 5th grader, they looked at me and said, you sound like a smart person. And I was like, oh, you're 10, not 18. So, I had to kind of go back through there. And that was a situation, like I'd been in there with that kid for like 10 minutes, right? Like if somebody had been in that room coaching in the moment with me, it might not have gone that way for that child, right? I mean, I'm fine. I got through it, but whatnot. But that child at the time did not engage with me because I was talking to a high schooler as opposed to a 10-year-old. So coaching in the moment is a big thing to me. I think also engaging in confidence, right? So once the person you're coaching and once Rudy got to the point where I can openly state, hey, I'm going to step out. it's time for you to stand behind be confident, because you know what you're doing. You're doing a great job. And I think we do a lot of we talk about co-teaching models within our classroom settings. I think Rudy and I do a pretty good job throughout our daily activities. And he is in my building. He's 4 feet. His office is 4 feet from mine. We do a lot of tagging in and out to kind of survive the day and kind of get through our decision making. And basically just to say, if you mess up, okay. We say, I got this. Let me go back at this. And we kind of go at it at a different angle. So I don't think that Rudy and I ever get to the point where I have to sit down. And I don't think I've ever, after 82 candidates, got to the point with Rudy where I would be like, no, that was a huge screw up, right? Like, I have been blessed. He's a smart guy. He knows kids. He's about relationships. So he's able to navigate these conversations.
Thank you for sharing that. David.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of good stuff right there, Carol. So, and I'll use Josh's experience here, obviously, for the obvious reasons here, as far as how I approach it. Well, with every assistant principal or anyone that I'm coaching, I always start with where they're at. Because everyone brings different experiences, different talents, different strengths, different things to the table. So I always like to learn, where's the individual at first, what are they bringing to the table. So, for instance, in Josh, he was already a veteran assistant principal. He's already been there, done that. He understood the discipline. Like, when it came to discipline and stuff like that, I knew I didn't even have to step into the office. I mean, I would check in. Of course, we would have our frequent check-ins weekly and whatnot, but I knew that I didn't have to necessarily coach him in that regard, or let's say. So what I mentioned originally was I wasn't looking for the next assistant principal. I was looking for the next principal when I was hiring Josh. I knew my time was short at the time, and I was very upfront with all the candidates. I knew that my next step was coming, and so this was a couple years ago, and I was very, very transparent in that. So I was looking for someone that was ready to step into that principal role. So my coaching at the time with Josh was, okay, let's see where he's at, where his skills and whatnot. And what I did, it's very similar to what Carol's saying, is bring him along. So I try to show Josh absolutely everything, not just from the assistant principal role, but from a principal's role. I try to expose him to absolutely everything that I could, everything from, potential grievances to, hey, have you thought of the branding of the school? Like, what's the message that we're putting out on social media? I mean, just everything and anything. We're talking about parents and PTA. Have you considered, the recognition that we're bringing to campus? Because again, this is not just, one thing here on campus. We have to really see it at a global level. We have people literally moving from out of the country to go to our school. Why? So I'm teaching Josh all these things and as much as I can, and that was the approach I took. But he was a very seasoned assistant principal, been there, done that. So I just wanted to expose him to absolutely everything I could, and that's the approach I took with Josh.
Thank you for sharing. And then the beautiful aspect of this conversation tonight is that Darren is right now coaching districts. He's coaching admin teams.
Yeah.
And the whole genesis of this conversation with Darren was how a soccer coach in Colorado reached out to him to get coached. So this is a different angle of coaching leaders. Darren, talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think first off, everything David and Carol just said, yes, all of it was wonderful and just absolutely on point. So the one piece I think I can add to it that is probably my biggest go-to, if you are at all a Ted Lasso fan, then I'll use this, what I think is the best scene ever in the entire series, the dart scene, when Ted Lasso quotes Walt Whitman, "Be curious, not judgmental." For me, as a leadership coach, and this goes back to even as a building principal, coaching my assistant principals, coaching my department chairs, coaching, aspiring leaders, just be curious. The number one thing we can do as leaders is ask good questions. Sure, we can tell, we can say, go do this, go do this, go do this, but that's not growing anyone. That's just simply creating, more robots of me. The world has one me. That's enough me's. We need others, right? So the more that I ask questions, the more that gives them an opportunity to really think. And listening to David talk about his time with Josh took me to a moment in time when I was a high school principal. I had an assistant principal who's now a high school principal, by the way. His name is Tom. And Tom came into the office one day. He was in charge of discipline at the time. And he's like, okay, here's the situation. What do you want me to do? And my response was, tell me what you think you want to do right now. And he started to list off, well, I could do this and I could do this and I could do this. And he's a really, really like hyped up guy. He was our head football coach before I hired him to bring him into the office. And he's like bouncing up and down. He's so excited about just sharing what he was thinking about. And it became, honestly, not just with him, not just with that team, but also the team of leaders that I led as a superintendent. When they would ask a question, it became almost kind of a running joke, right? They would say, now, Darren, I have a question, and I know you're going to answer it with a question, but let me ask the question first. And to me, I think as leaders growing the next generation of leaders, and I do this with the leaders and districts that I coach all over the place, just ask good questions. If you can lead with a good question, heck, if you're an administrator and you're going into that rock star teacher classroom that you have, that you're like, I don't know how to give them good feedback, don't worry about it. Just be curious. Ask good questions, right?
Probing questions.
Yeah, that's what I would say is just as coaches, the more curious we can be, the more we bring out what we want to bring out of the people that we're coaching.
You got it, Dr. Moreno.
Oh my goodness. You know what? Those are some really, really good feedback. You know what? I have the privilege of actually asking the recipients of this feedback, Brian and Joshua and Kip, if he was here, the almost the same question, but it's more kind of like the reciprocated. Like, how did you feel? How did you internalize this feedback? And what did you think as far as like how did you perceive this, right? Like, how were you like looking at this like, wow, they really are I'm gonna become a better person? Or like, how did you internalize all of this feedback from David, Carol, and well, Darren? You won't get to hear what Kip has to say, so we'll have to ask him later. Joshua, let's start off with you.
So Dr. Arencibia had a door that he had two doors in his office. One was right across from my door, and the other door went out into our main hallway. So there were many times where I would take that 2-second journey through his office and use him as just kind of a sounding board. Okay. And I already knew in a lot of cases, I already knew possibly how I was going to handle a situation or what needed to be done in a situation. But I used those quick little sound bites, those quick little sounding board moments with him. And I was on a separate note. I was unbelievably grateful for his transparency with me and including me in everything. I have a fantastic assistant principal right now, Miss Laura Herrera, and I do the same with her. She is highly qualified. She's ready to go, and she's only been an assistant principal for a little over a year now. But just that transparency that he had with me in the job, thinking of me the way he did to be able to share those things with me and being that constant sounding board, that is something that I'll never forget. And that's kind of why I referenced that year with Dr. Arencibia as one of my favorite years whenever we started.
Was there a conversation that was a really tough conversation that he was giving you that you were like, wow, these are like, I really messed up? And he, look, see, because David's laughing because I know there's got to be something.
No.
I will share one. I had been a testing coordinator many times before, but I made a rookie mistake in my testing coordinator duties one time where I assumed a box had the appropriate amount of books in it, and it did not. And
oh my God, testing.
That was a tough one to break to Dr. Arencibia, and he's like, the only thing he said to me was, he's like, hey man, why didn't you just count the books? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's exactly what I should have done. He knew that he knew that I was beating myself up more than he was going to be able to beat me up. But it's just, even the way he handled that situation, it was just being able to see that and being able to take that knowledge with me, and how I handle situations like that it definitely helps. And once again, I'm forever grateful for that, being in that setting.
Awesome. Thank you, Joshua. Brian, how about you and Carol? How did you receive this feedback?
I think everything that she said pretty much goes along with how we work every single day. What I will say, the one thing about Carol and our relationship is that it's never felt like that she's my boss, even though she's my boss. But it's always felt like a relationship that we work together, and we work together so well together that, any problem that comes up, we will sit there and we will go over everything, and we'll go over every scenario, and we'll go over every option that we possibly have. And what we always come back to, and something that I've learned from her, is that any decision that we always make is what's best for kids. So when we make these decisions and we go through these conversations, our vision and our philosophy is very, very clear on how we do things. So I've always just appreciated also just the fact that she has always included me in on absolutely everything. Like, even if she's doing something and she's, signing off, expense reports, she'll come in and she'll be like, hey, this is how you do it. I want to show you how to do this so that when the time comes, and she'll say that very often to me. When the time comes when you decide to take over, or you do this or you do that. And I'm like, okay. And I just smile and I'm just like, okay, like I'm just surviving the day right now. That's all I'm trying to do. So I've always appreciated the fact that she includes me in on everything. She's never kept any information from me. We've always worked really, really well together. And I just learned so much from her every single day. As I stated before, I wasn't the best student. I think maybe I sold myself really, really short. I did okay, but but what I will say is, sitting there and I learned from Carol. I'm a student every single day when I learn from Carol. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Brian, I'm going to tell you the same question. Is there a conversation that you can sit back and kind of look back, should I say,
Sure.
about something that something you did wrong, or the feedback, a really tough conversation with her?
Carol will laugh at me because she says sometimes I have the memory of like an elephant. Like I have a very good memory, like of like little things, and I remember like very impactful things that she said to me. And it has never ever been a situation where she's like, you really screwed up. I'll make a decision and then she'll say, well, have you thought about it this way? Or I would have considered maybe doing it this way. And I know that's her way of saying, well, maybe you should rethink how you've handled that decision. She's always done it with great grace and understanding that where I'm at, going back to what you guys were saying, like you look at where each individual educator is at, understanding that I'm still learning every single day, but she said little things here and there where I'm like, oh, okay, I think I know what she's saying right here.
She's in coaching mode all the time. That's why. Exactly. Good leaders are always in coaching modes.
Exactly.
So, Darren, how about you? I know your partner's not here, but you can definitely tell us.
Yeah, I think Kip would probably tell you that I could have pushed on him a little bit more here and there. I know there were times where Kip just wanted more and more and more. And I just wanted him to just kind of slow down and just kind of, get a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. Kip is somebody that he wants it all right now. And I would kind of remind him, let's take little bitty steps. Let's make sure that we get really good at what we are doing now, before we run too far down the road. And I think, there were certainly times where we would have conversations like that, and Kip would kind of take a step back and say, that's pretty much what I tell my soccer kids too, and I need to listen to my own advice. So I think sometimes as a coach, sometimes we will will say things that the other individual already knows. They just need to hear
Yeah.
it from somebody else, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's probably the biggest thing that Kip would tell you is I shared a lot of things that he probably already knew. And again, like I said earlier, I asked a lot of questions, and he would be like, okay, you're right. Yeah, I need to think about this. Or, it's just sometimes just that validation of your own thinking, it just really goes a long way. So I would hope that's what Kip would say. I don't know. I mean, maybe
We heard that
Kip would
from
say
Carol.
something completely different. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, well, Brian said that Carol does that all the time. Is always asking questions. So
Yep.
awesome.
Great. Thanks for that. That's awesome. And you know what? I just like to put this out there, out into the universe, that I love the relationships. This is beautiful. David, Josh, Carol, Rudy.
Rudy.
Yes.
Yep.
Rudy.
How we know?
Rudy.
Brian
Rudy.
is not Brian.
Gotcha, Rudy. But just to put it out there, the reality is that when we sit in the chair and we, like myself, I walked into a campus that was a D- school. I'm sorry. This is my vision. This is what we need to do. This is what I need you to do. Especially running a little city of 2,550 people, there is no choice of going back and forth, because in the end, just remember this, assistant principal, my chair is a hot one, not you. And I need you to, I was hired to bring my vision to this campus. So the board of trustees trusted, the superintendent trusted, the committee trusted me to get hired for that chair. So unless I'm making you do something unethical, then you adhere to my vision to make sure, because obviously what was happening before was not working, the definition of insanity. So when you sit in the actual chair, you know what I'm talking about, and you understand. And so sometimes I'm not very nice about that, because in the end, it's my livelihood.
Yes.
It's my family's livelihood, because you'll know that the way the school goes, the way the ratings go, is the way that our professional reputation goes.
And your job.
Yeah, exactly. For like, you end up in the bus barn, or you end up being back in the classroom. That's the other side of our field. That's the other side of coach, of being an administrator. And so I have had to have a lot of awkward and not nice conversations, because you're there to assist me. You assist the principal's vision, because when you become the principal, you're going to want someone to assist you with their vision. Hence the title, Assist the Principal. And there are a lot of people out there that believe that just because you're the new person, they don't need to follow you, or because they know the board member, they don't need to follow you. And you know what? There's hills that you're going to have to die on. And you know what? In the end, you got to select those hills that you're going to have to die on. And there's some assistant principals that, because you got the chair and they didn't, and they've been on that campus, that creates, as Jimmy Casas calls, an undercurrent.
Yeah.
And so it's those things that are out there that are the reality part of this coaching. I'm glad we have the super positivity thing, but understand that it's not always like that. And I don't want to throw in toxic conversations, but it isn't, especially when people have a set mindset on a campus.
Absolutely.
And there is no way, unless you have a hard muscle and scrape that barnacle away. Because in the end, remember, when you sit in the chair, it's your reputation.
Exactly.
It's your professional name. And you better make sure that those that are following you adhere to that. And you know what? Sometimes you can't have those nice conversations. You don't. And you know what? I was going to ask you about relationship. And I tell you right now, you guys have some great things going on. I know Kip and Darren, Carol, Rudy, David, you guys are awesome. So you know what? I'm just going to throw it to you, Dr. Moreno, on the next question.
Oh, okay. Well, so let's just tell the audience real quick on the process, this type of process regarding coaching, right? On a scale from 1 to 100, how important is it to have a professional coach? And actually, it could be, both ways. I know Brian, you look at Carol as your coach, right? But Carol, you also have a coach, right? You also have someone that that you look up to. So this actually kind of goes, kind of looking forward and kind of inspiring to be the next level, right? So let's start off with Darren. Darren, what is in a scale, again, going back to the question, what do you think of this process of coaching others? And in a scale of 1 to 100, how important is it to have a professional coach?
100. And I'll tell you why.
Done.
Not because I'm a coach. I will tell you, year one, high school principal, couldn't get my head above water, couldn't get out of my own way. I put on the superhero cape. I thought I had to be everything to everybody, and I did a horrible job as a building principal. Year two, I have a leadership coach hired. Long story made very short. We're in a classroom, his first day, spending time with me. And we stepped out in the hallway because I'd spent the first 2 hours of my day just putting out fires. That's all I did was put out fires. And he said to me in the hallway that day, do you want to be a firefighter or do you want to be a leader? You need to make the choice. And him helping me gain the clarity that I needed, him helping me be intentional with my time, with my actions, with my communication, all of that. I went from a guy who was really struggling to, I mean, a few years later, I was a state principal of the year. And you don't win that award on your own. You win that award because your entire building is functioning at a really high level. Now, that award wasn't about me, but
Yes.
that wouldn't happen if I wasn't able to lead my building, if all I was doing was running around putting out fires. So if Dr. Moreno, the highest number you'll give me is 100, I'll go 100. If you'll give me a bigger number, I'll go bigger, because I really think it's that important.
Thank you, Darren. And it's so important. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it does take everyone, right, to move a school, not just the principal. It does require everybody. So I'm glad you said that, because it's important for our principals to hear that it's everybody. And teachers need to understand that,
100%.
right? They need to understand that we work together, collective. If not, all the gears are going in different directions and you're not moving anything, right? So Joshua, how about you? What do you think about this process of having a coach?
Sorry, I had muted myself. I don't know where I would be if I didn't have a couple of coaches. I mean, I've
You need
worked
more than one.
yeah, I've had the amazing experience of working with some amazing, qualified, like leaders. It's hard to describe them. They're so good, and they're all good at very different things, So whenever certain instances pop up, or be like, Dr. Arancibia or Dr. Zavala or Dr. Jones, or all of my previous principals I've had the privilege to work with, they're all still coaching me whether they like it or not, and
Because we're still learning, right? We're all learning still.
And being able to lean on those people and being able to take little tidbits of everything that they did in their buildings and implement them in yours. It's just it is so important. And I lean on those things each and every day, Dr. Moreno.
Awesome. David, I'm gonna spin yours a little differently, because I know you coach people, right? There's a lot of principals that don't want to be coached, right? So, I mean, the question is still the same, but yet different, because how do you convince people or principals out there that, dude, it's not working? Like, you need someone to help you.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, and I'm so glad that you asked it that way, Marty, because Darren hit the nail on the head. I mean, just 100. It's 100. But exactly what you're saying, if you're not willing to be open and you don't want to grow, you're not going to grow. You can't force anyone to get better, to grow. I mean, that's a mindset thing that begins with us first, right? As individuals. I know so many people are like, man, I'm thinking that, I would love to help them. They just flat out would refuse. Because what they're doing is working for them, but it's really not working for them, right? But at the end of the day, we just got to have that open mindset, to be willing to receive that help and that coaching and grow. And we have to have some humility about it. I'm not talking about myself now, or even as coach. I'm putting myself in the shoes of being the recipient. I've got to be okay to be humble, to know that I don't know everything. I'm very, very far from it. And I need to seek, advice and wisdom from those individuals that have been there and done that. Because if I truly believe that I'm I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying
Exactly.
stagnant. So I don't try to convince anyone. At least when I coach, it's the individuals that come that are open and receptive. Those are the ones that grow, that have the highest of ceilings, if you will, because
Exactly.
they're looking for it, right? So that's what I would say on that. Yeah.
Yeah, because Darren, you do the same thing. You're coaching leaders all across the country, right? And so it's
Yeah.
important for us to help realize that we don't know everything. And I love the fact that Darren keeps on saying we're probing questions, right? And that's what that's how we grow, right? When you start asking those questions, and they're like, I don't know. Carol, how about you?
I completely agree. I'm sitting here shaking my head, like, of course it's 100. And I think you guys have kind of figured out my mindset on coaching and all that kind of, anyways, definitely 100. You need to have it. I think that in order to even let's just talk sustainability, right? Like, you cannot sustain every single day of this position in isolation unless you have somebody coaching you along that path, right? So
Yes.
just surviving on a daily basis, I think you need to be able to have that coach back there. But I also think, in terms of, I'm a big fan of professional learning community models, right? So, and as an administrator within that kind of a model, in order to have sustainability of all the different facets of that professional learning community, your number one position is to facilitate professional dialogue and to facilitate professional learning. So if you're not of the mindset of, hey, I need someone to help me do that, because like you guys just said, you don't know everything. There's no chance you're going to know everything, right? And things are thrown at you like a dartboard every year, all day, every day. So I think that, one, have your environment to be sustainable, to have your vision to be able to relate consistently and clearly, you need to have somebody coaching you through that, because you do get distracted. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You do get distracted by those daily fires.
And derailed.
Absolutely. So it's great to have a coach that you can kind of go back to. And I actually have multiple coaches, right? Like, I have a previous colleague who's still in the classroom every single day. I'm like, pretty much every day, maybe not every day, but I'm continually talking with her. Hey, what's it like in the classroom? What's it like in your environment, right? Then I have my colleagues, who is a high school principal. I consider her one of my mentors. I'm continually saying, hey, I know I should know how to do this, but can you just help me double check myself right now?
Yeah.
To kind of to keep the sanity going on. And then, of course, my superintendent and I think I have a great relationship with him. I'll call him up and I'll be like, hey, let me just bounce some things off of you. What do you think about this? So.
Yep. Having an open dialogue. Love it. Love it. And last but not least, what I know you see Carol as your big coach, your big cheerleader, right? So what do you think about the process, and where would you be if you didn't have the support that she gave you?
Yeah, what I'll say is I'm a sponge every single day, and it's whether I'm working with Carol or whether I'm working with former football coaches that I worked with, teachers. There's teachers in my building that I learn from every single day. So where would I be without all of these people kind of working me through it? And again, I think the idea of being vulnerable, and then also being, hey, the person that I don't know everything. So I'm going to go into every single situation. I might have some ideas about how I think things should be done, but I'm going to be a sponge. I'm going to learn, and I'm going to be vulnerable with people so that I can understand where they're coming from. And I could also be coached too. You have to be willing to be a recipient of coaching. So my biggest thing right now is like, I'm trying to be a sponge, sitting here with all of you very, very smart people, which is fantastic. But, every single day I'm just trying to learn and just trying to be that sponge. And again, there may be some things that I think, can be done one way, and I could always learn something from anybody. And that's going from any single person within our building, including, going into, our janitorial staff. I can learn things from any single person that's in our building. So just being that sponge. I don't know where I would be without all the wonderful people that I've been blessed to be around.
True. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And if you don't know where to start, just start off with all the free PD out there. Reach out to David. He has a newsletter. Reach out to Darren. He has a free ebook. Reach out to so many other individuals out there. You choose to be alone out there, leader. Even a department chair, whether it be whatever level of your chain of command is in your district, you choose to be alone because there's tons. I mean, Edutopia, I mean, there's just tons of stuff out there, and it keeps on evolving, especially after COVID. So
Yeah, yeah. Gosh,
exactly
and all those podcasts from Fantastic Four, all of those are free too.
every single last thing. So if you're not part of that, I mean, you're going to become stagnant water. If you're stagnant water as a leader, then that's going to be your campus. And there's no changing from that. And so just real quick before we get into our lightning round, the Échale Ganas questions. Hey guys, besides reaching out to our awesome panel right here for leadership questions, throw out to the audience one person they should reach out into a podcast or anything that's a leadership. You're local, someone in Ohio that we don't know about. I don't know anybody in Ohio. Somebody in the different part of North Texas, Nebraska. Just real quick, Josh, somebody that can be a coach for a leader.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say to my current boss, Dr. Kaylee McMullen. She's with GCISD. She is, I guess, the principal of principals right now, and she does a fantastic job. She's always. I try not to call her, but when I do, she always has an ear to listen,
She has
and
an answer.
she has an ear to listen, and she really empowers. I feel she empowers me and others as well to make the right decision for our campus, and then supports that decision. So I definitely am enjoying working with her now that Dr. Aaron Sebia is not up the hill anymore. I have to.
Rudy.
So.
Well, I'm going to go back. So I've been really following Brian Mendler. I don't know if you guys know Brian Mendler on social media. He is somebody that I actually put stuff out to our staff. Carol's been nice enough to give me a spot. We have a weekly newsletter, and there's been some things where I put out, like, for teachers and everybody to kind of look at. He just really does a wonderful job, especially when it comes to those really, really difficult kids. How to approach situations. And it's tough sometimes being in the classroom and having some of those difficult kids. And you get into those moments, and I think he does a really great job of giving those reminders about why you're here and what you're doing. So I would recommend anything that he does online. He's somebody that I really, really have watched a lot of and try to implement a lot of my philosophies.
Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, he was here in Region 10, I think a week ago. One of our team members went to go see him. So great job. Thank you for sharing that. David.
Yeah, I always love to go to the classics to the Johns of the world. So John Gordon, love John, positivity. When we're talking about power positive team, power positive leadership, all of those, he has just some classics, and I love the opportunity to not even be with him, but listening to him constantly. And the other John would be John Maxwell, just classic leadership 101 all the way around. There's so much goodness in everything that he does, going back to 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. You just name it. He has just everything that he has is gold, in my opinion. So I always like to go to the Johns when we're talking about leadership.
Thanks, David. If any of you do the Energy Buzz, that cat right there that just talked, he's an Energy Buzz certified presenter, educator. So reach out to that cat right there if you're in the Energy Buzz cycle at your campus. Darren.
I'll go a little bit different direction, but I'm going to go a little bit more into that mental health space, because it's so important for all of us to ensure that we're taking care of our staff and that our staff are able to take care of our kids. And so if you're not following Charlie Peck, I will tell you, you need to be following Charlie Peck, what she is doing in the mental health space and what she's doing to provide not just resources that you pay for or you bring her into your campus, but some free stuff that she does and shares. Charlie Peck, 100%. Absolutely. You need to be following her.
She does a great podcast and will be part with Darren at the North Carolina Middle School Conference in March. Carol.
So I can't believe no one said unlock the middle. Of course, we're going to pay attention to unlock the middle. Come on now. But I also have another guy, Kenny McKee is his name. He's actually out of Asheville, North Carolina. I met this gentleman years ago, right when Common Core first started coming out. I met him through some work I did at Student Achievement Partners. Super great guy, talks a lot about compassionate coaching. So Kenny McKee is his name.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing those ideas, those nuggets out there of knowledge. And this is how we close off the show. Real quick, muy rápido, Rudy. You're going to go first, brother. You're going to go first. I'm going to ask you the lightning round, the Échale Ganas. This is called the Ganas, Puras Ganas podcast. It is a spiritual word for Hispanics. Understand that. This is a word that we use from abuelita to abuelita to abuelita, grandma. It's passed down to everybody. It's not just a word in a punchline. It's something that connects us all. El Salvador, Nicaragua, Honduras, Mexico, Belize, everybody. It's a cultural word of motivating their future generations to become the best version of themselves, to inspire them. And that's why you need to echarle ganas right now, Rudy. Here we go. Are you ready, my man?
I'm ready.
Vamos
7
duro,
questions.
Rudy. Here we go. Give advice to either a new teacher or administrator.
I think regardless of your new teacher or administrator, relationships are everything. I would go back to exactly what you're saying here. The whole idea behind this podcast is find a mentor, find somebody that you can absorb any information you possibly can from.
Love it. Read a note, an email, or text from a teacher or student who wrote you, that inspired you.
So I actually had a teacher send me a very nice text. This was actually when I first started being an administrator. And again, I think when you first start something new, you're always questioning every single decision that you make and how you're going about it. And she texted me and she said, just a reminder, you're doing amazing things here. Your positive energy is being noticed and appreciated.
Beautiful. Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
I'm gonna some brownie points here, but I'm gonna give it to my wife. My wife is a kindergarten teacher. She is somebody that goes above and beyond to do the right thing for kids, even if it's the unpopular decision. Her heart is always in the right place, and she really, really cares for kids.
Beautiful. Who should people follow on social media? One person.
My wife, Brittany Radowski.
There we go. There we go. Give me, Rudy, give me one song, una canción that embodies you as a person, your spirit.
I am going to go with Journey, Don't Stop Believing.
All right. What's your favorite quote?
Emotions are great servants, but poor masters. I don't know who said that, but I have it written on my board, and I think it really rings true when we're into education.
Bro, I love that. I'm going to steal that. What is your favorite cheat food?
I really like the Nerd gummy clusters. That's my cheat meal. No, hold on.
Note to self.
I thought
I've never heard of that. So. Can you see these cheeks? They're pretty fat. Yeah. I've never heard of that food, bro. So, all right. All right. How can people reach you?
They can check me out on X under Coach Radowski. So, Coach Radowski.
Love it. Josh, batter up. Give advice to either new teacher or administrator.
Pay attention to your people. Your people are going to tell you everything that you need to know. Pay attention to your people. Pay attention to your campus pulse.
Read a note, an email, text from a teacher or a student who wrote you and inspired you.
I felt that I got this message today, so I felt like it was appropriate to share on the podcast. I got from Nabal Salman. He was one of my students back in probably my first, second, or third year of teaching. I can't place the grade. It was either fourth or fifth grade, but he sent me a message today at 3:36. I actually sent it to you, Josh, as soon as I got it. It says, I was one of your students at Thomas Haley Elementary. I was scrolling through my camera roll the other day and came across a picture that brought back some great memories of those times. It reminded me of how much of an impact you had on my life. And I just wanted to reach out and say thank you. A lot of who I am today is because of your guidance back then. So I love getting those messages from former students.
Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
I would send flowers to the three ladies who are on my A-team executive team right now. They are phenomenal. They do what's best for kids with every decision, and I'm choosing three people to send flowers to, and that is Laura Herrera, Ashley Francis, and Katie Segretti.
Who should people follow on social media?
Well, Dr. David Arancibia, of course.
There you go. What's one song? Una canción, Josue. One song that embodies you as a person.
Right now, I have an 8-month-old at home, so the theme song to Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, it embodies me right now. And that's all I hear at 24 hours a day.
What's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is, "Children must be taught how to think, not what to think," and that's from Margaret Mead.
What's your favorite cheat food? Sweet or sweet?
I like all of the sweets, Josh. You bring it my way, I'm good to go.
Love it. I agree with you. How can people reach you?
Jay Cassida CMS on X or at joshua.cassida@gcisd.net.
All right. Love it. Love it. Love it. David, you've done this before. No cheating. You may not repeat. But before I get to you, David, big shout out to team member number 2 of the Fantastic Four, Sheikah Houston. Thank you for being here tonight and showing up. Appreciate you. David, give advice to either new teacher or administrator.
All right. So some principles. Check in with your principal often as possible. If you don't have a routine set every week, at least once a week, make sure that you're doing that. Not only can you continue checking in the posts with each other, but also get some feedback on how things are going. Super important.
Read a note, an email, text from a teacher or student who wrote you.
All right. I got this one today from Mercedes. Happy birthday, Coach Arancibia. Funny thing, I taught a guitar to one of the students that you were a principal for. His name is Jackson. Super cool kid. I told him you were my Spanish teacher a long time ago, and he was surprised. Anyways, so proud to see the advancement over the years and feel lucky that I had you as a Spanish teacher. I'm fluent now, by the way, thanks to you. Happy birthday, Coach.
Eso.
Happy birthday, sir. Happy birthday.
Yes. I appreciate that.
Dr. Moreno, I was going to say that to the end. Don't kill it right there. Hold on. Send some flowers to a current educator who inspires you.
Yeah, so leadership coaching, right? That's the theme. So Jana Clark, she is fantastic. This is her first year as a principal, and she is absolutely crushing it, so much so, and I won't read it here, but there was a parent that actually dropped a Facebook message about her. She put it, the parent said, "Dear Boyd ISD," and it just praised her over and over and over for all the wonderful things that she was doing. So she is absolutely crushing it right there. So Jana, I know she's going to hear this and see this, so keep up the great work. Absolutely proud of you.
She will be joining us in 3 weeks with Central Hicks, who was on the show earlier. It's going to be called the First Timers Show. Around the corner, one song that embodies you as a person.
All right. So I went with Forrest Frank, Good Day. It's always a good day. We all have the choice to be grateful for our days, regardless of whatever is happening in our lives. So I love to jam out to Good Day. Just puts me in a great mood always.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't know you were finished.
You're good.
What's your favorite quote?
Be quick to listen and slow to speak.
Love it. What's your favorite cheat food, sir?
Currently, ice cream, like any kind of ice cream, but particularly cookies and cream ice cream, because that's what I have in my fridge that I'm about to be crushing here in a few minutes.
Enjoy. How can people reach out for your services?
Yeah, davidarancibia.com. Everything is on there, all my socials, everything, my email. But David Arancibia, if you just Google in David, ARE, it'll pop up right there because everyone can spell my last name, of course.
Central Hicks, I see you right there. I'm glad you're listening. And David, I see the props right there, my man. I see the shirt. Love it. Thank you for There we go. Love it. Carol, talk to us. Here we go. Give advice to either new teacher or administrator.
My bad. I didn't learn from COVID. So my advice to a new administrator would be to be authentic, right? Take it all in, listen, understand from where others are speaking from, and sometimes it's okay to be the last one to speak before you offer your opinion, and team mentality. And it's okay not to be the smartest person in the room.
Read a note, an email, text from a teacher or a student who wrote you that inspired you.
So I got one from a student who's now like 40, but we won't talk about that. And it said, I can't believe you remember me after all of these years. I want you to know that you made a real impact for me. My family life was pretty difficult as a teenager, and I didn't have a lot of support. I always felt that you supported me, and I think about that often. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your kindness. Honestly, the reminders of bringing a little joy to people are much needed fuel.
Love it.
Yeah, that one was
Send
good.
some flowers to a current educator who inspires you.
So my administrative team, or not my administrative team, excuse me, my building leadership team, I have specifically my math and ELA leaders. They're awesome. They work hard for me every single day. There's some people even texting me right now as we go into an in-service day tomorrow. But I also want to give a shout out to my sister-in-law who teaches 5th grade. And when I moved to 5th grade, she was very much there for me about what does it mean to be a 5th grade teacher. And she keeps me grounded throughout my leadership.
Love it. Who should
Yeah.
people follow on social media?
I'm going to go Chris Tavani. I'm a big literacy person. I really like the way where she comes from in terms of literacy. So I'm going to go Chris Tavani.
One song, young lady, that embodies you, your spirit.
Okay, so I'm not going to expect to get made fun of for this for the next several weeks, Rudy, but I'm going to go very old school, little Marvin Gaye, Ain't No Mountain High Enough.
All right. We got it. We got you. Your favorite quote?
The famous Maya Angelou one, right? People will never forget how you make them feel.
Perfect. What is your favorite cheat food, ma'am? Or sweet?
Rudy might be thinking I'm going to say something like kale, but I'm going to go chocolate.
Kale's not allowed in this conversation, ma'am.
I know. I had to,
That's what's
I
called
had
a
to,
cheat food. I
I
left
had
out.
to dig in. I'll go chocolate.
All right, there you go. Thank you very much. And don't say dark chocolate. It has to be nice, caloric, sugary chocolate. Okay.
I'm gonna leave that up to you. There you go.
All right, got it. How can people reach out to you?
I'm on X, Carol S. Tonsing.
Love it. Thank you. RTA. You've been here before, sir. You cannot cheat. I'll
That's
go
right.
back on the video. Here we go. Give advice to either a teacher or administrator.
All right, I'll go. New administrator, your school does not need a superhero. They need you to be the best you that you can be. So slow down. Don't try to do everything. Get up on the balcony and check in on yourself and take care of yourself.
Read a note, an email, a text, or from a teacher or a student that wrote you that inspired you.
Yeah, so I just dug into this one here. So I have a former player of mine. I coached him in both junior high and high school. He just turned 39 a couple of weeks ago. So Carol, I'm with you on this one. And for the last 2 years, he's been coaching his own son's middle school team. At the end of the season, he sent me this note. We message regularly, like strategy and stuff. I want to take a second and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule over the last several years to help, encourage, and make me want to be a better coach for these boys. You're an unknown hero to them. They have no idea that half, if not more, of my strategies and concepts come from what you taught me 25 years ago. I hope someday I get the opportunity to help one of them like you have helped me.
Woo! Eso! Send some flowers to a current educator who inspires you.
I'm going to send flowers to a middle school principal. Her name is Bentley Lewis. She is at Oak Brook Middle School in South Carolina. Bentley is absolutely crushing it in year 3 in that school.
Awesome.
Who should people follow?
Let's see. Who should people follow? They should follow Crystal Frommert. Crystal Frommert is a middle school teacher and an absolute guru when it comes to communicating with parents.
Oh, interesting. Thank you for sharing that. One song, Darren, that embodies you.
You told me I can't go back to my usual
No.
one, so I will go. I'll go in a little bit different direction here. I'm going to go with the song "Something Beautiful" by Greg Holden.
All right. Your favorite quote?
My favorite quote, Rory Vaden once said, "We are uniquely positioned to help the person that we once were." And I think that's the perfect quote for this coaching show.
Your favorite cheat food or sweet, sir?
I'm going to tell you, I got a whole lot of them, but I'm gonna kind of go in the same direction as David. I'm getting ready to go and crush a Totino's frozen pizza.
Ah, all right. How can people reach you on the RTA?
Yeah, you can catch me on the Road to Awesome at roadtoawesome.net. You can catch me on all socials, Darren M. Peppard.
And I would be remiss if we do not count on the count of three. I do this for our team members on the campus. You know this, Darren. You've been there, Marty. You know that. I make everyone do it, whether they want to or not. At least mouth it like you're doing it. Let's give him a big happy birthday on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
dear David.
Happy
Happy birthday to you.
That was horrible,
That was
but we
awful.
love you, bro.
Appreciate that. Did you see Watch throw that at that screen right there?
And it's forever because it'll be on YouTube. It'll be forever. So know that our horrible singing was with much love to you. Hey, hold on. Do not hang up. Do not hang up, everybody. Once we get off the call, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts about coaching your current assistant principal, former assistant principal, other people that are not even within your state. It's about learning from each other. And don't forget, we've got the Principal Roundtable number 3 coming up, Teacher Roundtable number 2 coming up. We are family show in 3 weeks with bus drivers, cafeteria workers, custodians coming up. And after that, it's my first year show. For the next 4 weeks, we got it covered because you know what? We're all learning from everybody, everyone that joined us tonight. Thank you very much. It's about growing together, growing stronger. We love you. Thank you for being here. Like